Hi everybody. I couldn't really sleep this evening, so I've been meaning to make this video for quite a while, and I wanted to basically show people a few steps or a few key steps on creating a good blog or website page or article. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to refer to each of them. They're all the same thing, so they're all going to be synonymous as I refer to them throughout this video. They may mean different things for other websites. For this specific video, a blog or a blog post or a post or an article or a page are all referring to the same thing. They're referring to one page on a website. So I'll jump into it. I'm also going to use WordPress. You may or may not be using WordPress, but it's such a popular tool nowadays that I figure I might as well go ahead and show that, simply because this video will allow someone who's not a programmer the ability to jump in and actually create hierarchical content within WordPress in their WYSIWYG editor. So without further ado, I'm just going to kind of go about the strategy here. The first step is really to figure out what people are searching for and what is a low competition search phrase that people might actually type into a Google search or another search engine. And by figuring out what that target is, or what people are typing in the most, we can actually gear our article to be somewhat close to what someone might type in. That being said, for today's sample, we're going to use the example of sandwiches, and we'll go ahead and create an article that's about sandwiches. So I'll jump into that. To do that, I go to the Google Keyword Planner under the Google AdWords Campaign Manager. I'll back up here. This used to be called Google Keyword Tool. Now it's called Google Keyword Planner. In my opinion, this is not as effective as it used to be, but really what we're searching here is for things that have a high search volume, either globally or locally, and then secondly, what the competition is for search phrases like that. So I went into that tool here, and I'm just going to click on the first item here, which is search for a new keyword or ad group ideas. I'm not actually going to create an AdWords campaign. I'm just going to check to see what some common key phrases are that people might search for. So let's just start out with a sample of how to make a sandwich. And we'll see what kind of search volume surrounds that phrase. And as it loads here, we can see that we've got these different ad groups here. Make tuna, there's 25 different keywords within there. We really want to optimize for items that actually have sandwich in there. But we can see right away that how to make a tuna sandwich gets searched on average about 1,900 times per month. If we'd like to specify a location, let's say we had a sandwich shop right here in Atlanta, we can actually specify how many people in Atlanta search that, and we'll get some updated results. Whoops. Atlanta. I've got to click there, and it will retabulate what the search volume is. It is significantly lower, as you can imagine, versus the very broad search here. So depending on if your website is location or geo-specific, you may want to filter your results down to figure out what the actual average monthly search volume is for that. Secondly, you could see here, make wrap. That's just an idea that it gave us here. A sandwich wrap, I guess, is technically a sandwich. That might be a topic for a different article here, but I want to make sure that the word sandwich is actually in the keyword. So I can come here, click on this, and type in sandwich, hit enter, and I can add different words if I'd like to. I guess there is no need for an enter here. I can just click outside the box, and now it's only going to show me options that have the word sandwich within the actual keyword. So I can see here that on an average monthly basis for sandwich wrap in Atlanta, I'm getting about 10 searches per month. That's not too high. So we're going to back out here. We'll just sort by average monthly searches here by clicking on this column header. And make a sandwich is, of course, nice and specific. Now notice that Atlanta is not really in these results. This is just how many people in Atlanta might search for that. I would recommend that if you are going to geo-specify your result, that actual city should probably be a part of the actual search query that you're going to be writing about. So if you're going to be writing about Atlanta sandwiches, that would need to be in here, or you would need the keywords to include Atlanta sandwich. That way you could be far more specific with your niche. Okay, so I'm just going to click on sandwich here, and I'm going to despecify, don't know if that's a word, remove, I should say, Atlanta. And I'm back to my average monthly searches here. Make a sandwich. We can see that roughly 1,000 people per month are searching for how to make a Subway sandwich. And the competition for that's fairly low. That's actually what we're looking for. In many markets, you're going to see that there's a much higher, even medium here. There are none that say there are none that currently say high at all in here. So I guess the sandwich market might be fairly easy to break into. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so I'm going to jump over here. This is ad groups, where it's actually categorizing items into different ad groups that it's suggesting for us. We can also click this keyword ideas. This to me is a little bit more effective. It's showing here that I've got 5,400 searches per month. I believe that's globally, and the competition is fairly low for that. You'll notice here how to make sandwich gets actually 12,000 searches per month, and the competition for that is also quite low. You can see here are some other options later on down the line if we're selling our sandwiches online that of course are maintained freshness throughout the shipping process. We can have some more ideas for what we could write about here in the future. I usually like to sort by average monthly, but that will just give you some ideas. Obviously, the more broad, the more difficult it's going to be. Sandwich maker here. We get 27,000 searches per month, and as you might imagine, since there's an item that's probably being sold there, the competition for that word is quite high. So I might not actually go with sandwich maker as my blog article title. I might actually make it something like how to make a sandwich with a sandwich maker or similar. Okay, now since there is a decent amount of monthly searches here, I'm going to go ahead and keep on my current path, and the title of my article is going to be how to make a sandwich. Secondly, I am actually going to catch these 12,000 right here as well, because typically Google will ignore words in a title like a or and or the word or. Simple words like that, it typically will throw out, and it will kind of put them all together, kind of skip over the small connector words. So without further ado, we'll just jump into the blog. So I'll copy that, how to make a sandwich. Okay, right away you'll see that there's the text editor nice and large on the screen, and I'm going to go ahead and paste in, and of course capitalize, how to make a sandwich. That's my blog article. You'll want to put that into a category. I'll add a new category here. Sandwiches, if I could spell correctly. And it should automatically check itself. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't add that. Add new category. It should automatically check itself with the Ajax there. I typically do not like to add items to more than one category, simply because Google might see that as duplicate content because it can get there in more than one way. So I typically only make it available in one category if possible. You'll also see here that there's a custom slug we can edit here. We want to make that pretty close to the actual word that we might want. I might actually take out the word A in here just to get a little closer to that other search that I showed with 12,000 global searches per month. This basically shows us, though, where the actual article will sit. All right, so let's say I've got my content here. I don't actually have content today, so I'm going to use a nice little tool called lorem ipsum as placeholder text. But of course, your text will be far more engaging. I'm going to copy that into the post and paste it. So this is the actual blog post. These are paragraphs. Now, it is kind of nice because WordPress will automatically format pasted text typically as paragraph mode. So if I highlight this, you can see the paragraph is not changed. But we do actually want to plug in some heading tags throughout the article. So a website typically has a set hierarchy that it uses in order to rank how important things are on a page. And this is something I think a lot of people gloss right over, but it's very important, and you can do it from right here in WordPress with very little effort. So, for example, the first item here is how to make a sandwich. That's actually going to be what's called our H1 tag. And that looks kind of like this in code view. We're not in code view right now. But we want this H1 tag to be on our page somewhere. Now, most themes are pretty smart in that they will make the actual title of the post automatically an H1 tag, so you don't really have to do too much to the H1 tag. You only want to have one H1 tag per page as kind of a general rule. Any more than that, I won't say you'll get really penalized, but it's kind of recommended against it. Basically, the title of your article or the title of your page should be the exact keyword phrase that people might search over from the keyword planner. And by doing that, we create the opportunity for Google to see us just a little bit better because it's our H1 tag. It's the most important text on that specific website page. After that, we're going to create what are called H2 and H3 tags. We can go all the way down to H6 for the most part. So I'm going to delete this here, and let's just say that we're going to talk about 3 or 4 kinds of sandwiches here. So the first kind of sandwich we're going to call peanut butter and jelly. And you'll notice that looks around the same size as the other text. Well, we don't want that. We want to tell the search engines that this is pretty important text. This is going to be a header. And if I select that text, you'll see here that I have the option to not choose a paragraph, but rather choose an H2 tag, heading 2 tag right here. And that's going to bold it and enlarge it right here. That does a lot more than just showing it like that, like the H2 tag on the page. But the very fact that we're highlighting it with H2 means something to the page hierarchy. Let's say this is our text, our paragraph text about peanut butter and jelly. We might have 2 paragraphs of content. That would be pretty good. And then we might talk about our panini sandwiches. Get a little creative with how these actually are typed out here. I just kind of added making there on the end of it, so it's not the same heading, just repeated over and over with words changed out. So if I had peanut butter and jelly making, I wouldn't come down here and say panini sandwich making or something like that. I might say making a panini sandwich. Whoops. and it looks like the header tag went away. So I'm going to correct this. And make it an H2 tag once more. Okay, let's go down here. We've got 2 paragraphs about our panini sandwich, and who could forget our favorite, how to make a grilled cheese sandwich. Notice that I'm putting the word sandwich in all of these tags. Well, not this one. Okay, so theoretically, these would be 2 paragraphs about peanut butter and jelly. Here are 2 paragraphs about our panini sandwich, and then how to make the famous grilled cheese sandwich. I'll go ahead and make that an H2 tag. Okay, if you have different kinds of panini sandwiches, we're going to go just a little bit deeper. So we might come down here and say, so we'll say a cheddar and chicken panini making. You might say turkey and Swiss paninis, and then a Cuban sandwich. I don't technically know if the Cuban fits into the paninis, but I've had them and they're pretty good, so I'm putting it in there. For this article, since we've got the H1 tag of how to make a sandwich, then we've got our H2s right here, here. I don't need to spell sandwich correctly here. And we've got another H2 here. Now, since this is within the H2, we're going to go ahead and call this an H3. You'll notice that they look a little bit different here on the back end than they do on the front end. Don't get too caught up in the actual looks of this on the back end, because whatever you put in here in the back end, something different is going to show up here on the front end. Let's just say this is the same content. We don't want to have duplicate content, but I'm just pasting in our placeholder content here for each of these. Okay, so theoretically, we've got information about the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, information about the panini sandwich, information about each of the 3 kinds of paninis. Then we jump into the grilled cheese and talk about that. We could subdivide this article out further. You can see here that WordPress is showing us a word count of about 785. Our goal is typically going to be, we should be over 500 for Google or regular search engines to see it as an effective article. So this would be well above that. If you're getting into the 1100, 1200 range, it's probably best if you pare your content down a little bit and actually divide it into 2 different blog posts. The reason for that is you get 2 posts, that's going to equate to 2 pages on your website. So the more pages of information, the better. If you have a post that cannot really be split up, you can always do a part 1 and part 2, and people will kind of get that as well. If you write them both at the same time, it's most likely best if you publish those about a week apart on your website. We want to kind of gently be kind of feeding Google some content rather than dumping all these articles on them at a time. Okay, so I've got the information here. Kind of the next step is going to be that I can bold information and italicize things. We want to bold those keywords in here. So let's just assume that these are some keywords about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I can go ahead and bold these by selecting it, and right here is bold. Another thing we can do is italicize. Again, we want to kind of search out for our keyword phrases. We want to grab phrases that are about 5 to 6 words in length. So those are good things to do. Google will actually key off of that and realize those as a little bit more important than paragraph tags, but not as important as heading tags. Okay, so we've got that done. I'm going to jump over to text view so we can kind of tell what's being done here. We have a little I'm going to add a little white space to this just so we can kind of see what's going on. One thing that WordPress leaves out of its WYSIWYG or its text editor is paragraph tags. Those are done automatically. But you could see here we've got our H2 tag, and then typically a paragraph tag will look like this. So if you're actually coding this within a code editor, you'll probably have P tags, but they're invisible here for this text editor as WordPress sees them as kind of a given, and it assigns those automatically. So we don't really need to add those here. Also, in some versions of this tiny MCE editor, which comes standard with WordPress, sometimes when I add white space in HTML, it will add them in visual mode as well. It didn't in this case, but depends on the version of tiny MCE editor and the version of WordPress that you have. But we want to make sure that that white space doesn't exist. I personally like the white space in HTML, and you can see it's already been collapsed here as I've switched back and forth. The white space kind of helps me figure out where I am in an article, especially if I'm not that good at looking at code view. I can tell real quickly where the paragraphs and headings are. Okay, so we've got pretty much the main guts of the article in. Now we want to add about 3 to 4 links to the website, or to this actual article. And we want to have 2 on-site links and 2 off-site links. The 2 on-site links will link 2 pages on our website that we feel are kind of calls to action. And we want to put those on the text, similar to how we bolded some things. So we might have click here to make a sandwich now. Okay, that's a pretty direct call to action. You might want to be a little softer. It depends on, I guess, what the content is on your site and how hard of a sell it is. But I highlight that text and come up here to this insert edit link, and I might go to the contact page. This actually refers to the root of the site. It's not as common anymore for titles to be used, but I'll go ahead and add one anyways. This is an HTML title. And we'll click on add link, and you'll see that now is displayed as a link on the page. I'll do a second link here. This is going to be my call to action link at the end of the article. This is what I want people to actually click upon. I'm going to add media, go to upload files, select from my computer. Once that uploads, I'm going to hit insert into post. Actually, I'm going to hold off a second. Down here on the right with alignment, I'm going to click on left align. Link to, we're going to add a custom URL, and I'm going to type in /contact. That's going to go to the root and then go to the contact page. I could type in http:// and put in the entire path of the URL I'd like to send people to, but in this case I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to type in /contact, and we'll use the full-size image for this. Insert into post, and you can see here this is my call to action. Now there are some themes or WordPress tools or CSS items that actually have built into them the ability to create a button with HTML. You might have a little button maker up here in these tools. I do not right now, so I'm kind of going on the assumption that most people don't have that ability, and I've created a graphic that I could upload and people can click to go somewhere. All right, so those satisfy my 2 on-site links. Now, what is an off-site link? An off-site link is a page that goes somewhere else, and typically we want to link people to a page on another website that is considered an authority page, an authority content host. So in this situation, I don't know, I'm guessing there might be a website called sandwiches.com. But we want to find who those people are. We don't want to link to our competition per se, but we might want to link to somebody other than a Wikipedia page that might know a thing or two about sandwiches. So we might just check out this 300sandwiches.com. I've got a little tool that tells me what the PR is. We want kind of a page with a higher PR, but we can kind of be searching for that for a while. We've got 1,830 pages. I would say this is kind of close to what we would consider an authority page. And we want to be a little specific with which we want to link to an internal page. So I want to actually link to this internal page right here. So I'm going to Control-C that to copy it to my clipboard, jump back to my blog, and I might select the text here within the Panini, and I'll click that link once more. This time I will plug in the entire link. And I'm also going to choose Open Link in a new tab for these, simply because when I have a user click on this, I don't want them to leave my site. If they get somewhere and like that website better, then, well, heck, I've lost the user. I don't really want that. So what I do is I'll have the item open in a new window. And so by doing that, it actually creates a new tab. That way, when they close that tab, they're still back at your website. I'll just go ahead and add one more link here. I'm not going to add the same authority website. I'm going to go back and find another authority website. We don't really want to link to Panera since I probably own a sandwich shop here. We'll go to allrecipes.com. That seems to be pretty good. And let's just click on, let's see what their SEO situation is here. They've got a page rank of 3, and they've got 9.3 million index pages. That's pretty darn high. I'd say this is as close to an authority site as we're going to get. You can see this is a free tool called SEO Quake that I use for some on-page analytics. I'm going to go into the cheese sandwiches, and we'll just choose the grilled cheese sandwich. I'm going to copy a link, and we'll go back to our blog, come down to the grilled cheese sandwich, and we might go ahead and select this text here, assuming that says learn how to make a grilled cheese at this website. And we'll again open that in a new tab and click on add link. All right, so everything's looking pretty good content-wise, but who in their right mind is going to stick around and just read all this information? Well, we want to make the content a little bit more engaging now. So we want to add some images, and a good resource for that I've found is to buy some stock images at Shutterstock. I'm actually a member there. I think if you're going to plan out your blogs, probably the best thing to do is to buy images where you get a full month. Right here in the middle of the page, I missed it. I would say the best plan is to get 1 month of service, and that affords you 25 images per day. You can also buy them as you go. It's not as good of a deal, but you might just want 5 images and you're never going to need to blog again. That's pretty rare. So I would say go for the month, and if you're a smart person, you'll go ahead and pre-plan some of your blogs so that for $250 you could download images for blogs to come, things that you will be writing about. So I would recommend you kind of go with that 1 month plan. So with that, you get very high resolution that you can also download for print files as well. Okay, so let's say that you've purchased some images. I have not. I did something that no one should ever do, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I think it's okay. I bent the rules a little bit, and I took some Google images. So I'm going to upload those into my blog here. I'm going to jump into Add Media, Upload Files, Select Files. I'm going to add all 3 of these. Okay. I believe the first one that I wrote about was the PB&J, so I'm going to select that. My alignment will stay left because I want the text to wrap around that. I don't want this to link to anything. That's something that is very annoying that WordPress does automatically. So I'm going to leave that link as none. Sometimes you can link to the media file. I've got my media file set so that it automatically does a fancy box plugin. But many times when you click on the media file, it will just go to that image in its own tab, and that's very seldom is that desirable to some people. I think 600 pixels wide is going to be a little bit big, so I'm going to downsize that to medium here. We're not tied into that 100% just yet, but I'll hit 300 by 200 for right now, and I'll click Insert into Post. Oh, and it actually, one thing I missed is that it actually included the other two images. I can just select those images and hit Delete. And we can see here that we get this nice text wrapping around. Don't fret too much on how this looks just yet, because once we publish it to our front page or to our public facing site, it's going to look a little different. I'm going to add the panini here. This time I'm going to make sure that only one is checked. Alignment left. Link to, again, media file for me because I've got the fancy box plugin. Many times you'll want none. One thing I didn't mention on the previous one is this alt tag right here is very, very important. We're going to call it Panini. I'm going to just copy the title here. And I'm going to remove the spaces. Or I'm sorry, add spaces again. And again, we're going for some keywords in here. If I want to edit an image, I can simply click on the image and click this pencil. Alt is the alternative text, so that's the alt tag. Link to, I'm going to change that to none. And I'll click on update. If I want to update the size as well, I can do that. I can even choose a custom size. I'm going to leave it at 300 for right now. Jump down here to the grilled cheese. And you may have some more engaging images that you decided to include. I hope you do. Okay, whoops, I forgot to add alt tags to that, so I'm going to edit that. Now, the reason it's picked up this alt tag is because the name of my image originally is grilled cheese sandwich. I would highly recommend that you get in the habit of naming files with dashes between them and removing all punctuation. This allows Google not to have to guess at all. It knows exactly what it's going to get. We want to avoid spaces because spaces in URLs are actually spelled out as the %20 sign. That's how Google sees that, or that's how the internet sees that. So these dashes work very well. You could use underscores. I understand they're not as effective as these dashes. You could also delete the space altogether. I desire that also a little bit less because it runs everything together. Might be a little confusing to the search engines. Okay, so now that we've got our nice article here, I'm going to click on Publish. But we're probably not done yet. I'm going to click on View the Post. And we can see how that image looks. Note that the text that we plugged in looks a little bit different than what we actually saw in the text editor on the back end. We've got our H1 tag here. We've got our H2 tags. We've got our paragraph tags, bold tags, and we've got our images here. So you could see that the H2s are bigger than the H3s. That's what we want. And then we've got our call to action right down here. This is where we want people to go. So that's kind of a typical blog to be laid out. Now, a few more things that you can add to make your blog just a little bit better is you can add a little bit more SEO. There are two plugins that I recommend, and one or the other is good, but not both. I've used SEO Ultimate quite a bit. I'm using SEO Ultimate on this website. Another one that's pretty good is the WordPress SEO by Yoast. I'm a little less enthused by Yoast simply because it seems to run a little sluggish on my site. It is a better tool if you're not very seasoned with SEO. It will kind of give you an SEO grader for each page with a color code, but I do not have it installed on this exact website. In both cases, though, once you actually have the blog, I'm going to jump back into edit mode. I'm going to hit the back button here. This should give you SEO settings here that it wouldn't normally have. So your title tag is by default going to be how to make a sandwich. And so even though it will fill in here automatically, you could overwrite it if you wanted to have a slightly different title tag than your H1 tag. Usually you don't want that though. Secondly, this plugin allows you to create a meta description. This is quite important. It's recommended that you spend about 140 characters, a little less than a tweet, to talk about this page. We should be able to sum up in one sentence and very keyword rich, a nice succinct sentence about what this blog post or page is about. So, you know, this is obviously about how to make sandwiches. We want this sentence to have kind of a subject, verb, predicate, that kind of thing. So let's go ahead and write that here. I'm going to misspell some things and come back later. Okay, now you can tell that these SEO tool has, am I spelling panini wrong? I might have, I don't know. P-A-N-I-N-I. Okay, well the tool here seems to think that I haven't spelled it correctly. I'm going to ignore it for now. You can see here we've got 143. It's recommending 140. We're okay to go over. This isn't a disaster. We're within our range here. Now it's when we have these books in here that we really want to avoid. We want to make sure that our meta description is pretty close to the allowable characters that we can plug in here. Up here is the title tag. We've got 28 characters. We've got 70 to go. You don't have to fill these out as much as they say. Don't do a keyword stuffing or anything like that. Google is way too smart for that now. So we'll go ahead and hit update our post. And if I want to view that post, I'm going to right click here, open this in a new tab, and I should be able to see that post again. Now, where is the meta description and title tag? Well, you can see the title tag here is in the browser tab head. I don't think I'm actually showing that, but maybe I can bring that down here in the video. It's in the tab head right here, how to make a great sandwich. So that's where that's written. If I want to actually see the meta description, what I do is I'm going to look at code view. And let's go to the very top. It's usually at the top of the page here. And we can see our meta name description. This definitive article will show you how to make 3 great sandwiches. We focus on peanut butter, jelly, panini, and grilled cheese. So that's kind of a little SEO add-in right there. Between the images, the alt tags, the engaging article, the exciting content that we wrote about this, and then the offsite links, this makes for a pretty good SEO article. We've got the call to action. We talked about that. A few other things that can kind of engage the reader a little bit more. Sometimes we can pipe in a YouTube video or a video of sorts into here. So what we might do is just jump out, grab a video. And after skipping the ad,
sandwich, but a panini is like.
We're going to pause this. Down here, we can hit on share and embed. We're going to grab this code and copy him. Now, we can't necessarily plug that code into here in the visual mode. We actually need to switch it up to text mode. And I'm going to have to find in here where I want to put it. So a good way, if you're not really adept at using code, is to kind of choose a word that you're going to come back later and kind of look for. So I'm going to put the panini right above the header title for cheddar and chicken panini making. And I'm going to find that. I'm going to do a Control F to find. And I'm going to find that found in the page here. I'm going to give myself a few lines of space. I'm going to paste in that code. Okay, that's going to give us what's called an iframe. This is just to increase engagement. This does really nothing for SEO other than keep people on the page longer, which can be a good thing. For the width, I usually like to go with 100%. That's just going to take up a full width of whatever area you give it for your blog. And then a height, I'm going to increase that a little bit. I'll just go ahead and say I'll put that at 480. Unfortunately, we can't do a height of 100%. That will take up way too much of the space and it will blow out the entire article. So we'll guess at 480 for right now. When I switch back to visual mode, I should be able to see that there's kind of a box here that the WordPress is kind of allotted to have this kind of space. So I can hit update once more. And this will allow my page to be a little bit more engaging for users. So you can add pages or you can add videos like that. There's a few more things that we can add. One thing that I highly recommend that really does engage some users is called an infographic. If you're not familiar with an infographic, you might see them, you've seen them before in like a Time magazine or similar, where they're trying to get information of an entire article to kind of summarize that into one graphic. So all you've got to do is Google the phrase infographics, and you'll see kind of what I'm talking about here. These items here are infographics. They're kind of a collage, if you will, of information, and we can kind of see what's going on at a glance. So again, we can kind of buy vector images from Shutterstock. These are just examples that I found on Google, but Shutterstock does have the ability to infographics here. And we can see that, you know, we've got some regular charts and things like that that we could download. You probably will need to use some kind of professional graphic editor to be able to modify these for your use. So these vector ones will scale to any size. The JPEGs are actually what's called a raster graphic. If you're not too keen with any of the graphics packages, I'd recommend you kind of get familiar with those, or just, you know, hire a graphic designer like myself to create these for you. It's probably best though that you create the article first rather than creating the infographic first. The reason for that is that someone like me would really benefit in efficiency from actually being able to access the actual content of the article first. This way we know exactly what the graphic's going to be about. So those can be kind of created after the article's been written, and then they can be placed into the article just as a normal graphic would be on the post. So that's pretty much my little guide on how to create the ideal page slash blog slash article slash whatever you'd like. The reason that blogs are just so popular is because they point towards an idea that we're constantly updating the website, that when Google comes back to crawl the site, there's always something new. And in that case, if we are actually posting regularly, whether it's pages or we're actually posting news of a blog, you know, anything, if we're pasting content of this length for a regular period of time, Google's going to come back more and more simply because it knows that we've got our finger on the pulse and we're writing hierarchical content in their eyes. And so we're adding some really key tags here to make sure that this is visible in the eyes of of search engines. All right, so that was pretty in-depth. I can tell I've been talking for close to 50 minutes here. So if you haven't fallen asleep already, go ahead and get blogging and have some fun. Let me know if you have any questions. You can post those in the comments area. And happy blogging. Good luck.